Thank you for sharing that, Auntie. I'm going to open up the floor for questions and ask questions so she can answer them if you have any questions. But I do have a question, and I want to expound on something that you said here today and something that you shared with me as a young wife. One of the things that you share with me that whenever we're having challenges in our marriage and differences we're experiencing with our husband was to talk to God about our husband. And one of the terms you will always say, go to his boss. Will you expound on that and tell the ladies what that looks like and what did that look like and what do you mean by that? Because that was very beneficial for me in my marriage, going to his boss about him.
Well, one thing for me with my husband, and all of you are going to have disagreements, and we would just argue, 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 argue. And I wish I could take credit for the going for his boss, but that was one of the things I went to my mentor about. And I just knew I went and I was telling her everything that was wrong with him. And he's this, he's that, he's the other, he's the other. He won't listen. He's da 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 da. And I could tell him everything I thought he needed to know, where his mom missed giving it to him. I knew I'd tell him. And that's where I was with it. And then the first thing that I was told, she told me, she says, "You are not his boss. You need to ask him to forgive you." Ask him to forgive me. He is the one who was wrong. And she says, "You are not the head of that house. He is the head." And that's what the Bible says. He is the head of the house. You go to who is his head, his boss. And that's what I had to do. It was the hardest thing I could do, to go and ask him to forgive me, because I thought he was the one who was wrong, but I had talked too much. I had too much to say. I was trying to fix him. I was trying to run it. I was trying to make him be what he should be. Where his mom missed, look, I can help that. I was all out of order. And so when I went to him to ask him to forgive me, he was like, "Yeah, mm-hmm." And I had to grit my teeth and go back. I was washing dishes in the kitchen, looking out of the window, upset, tears rolling, but I wanted to please God. So I began to pray to God about him as I was instructed. I went to his boss. "God, I've been out of order. I've been saying too much. Much of the much of the arguments at the time, I didn't realize it, but I learned that the way to stop every argument in your home is to just shut up, because it takes two." So and when I did that, and when I pulled out and I want to begin to talk to God about it, then God began to show me, and the Lord began to show me that a lot of the arguments was my husband's response to the way I was approaching him. And so I had to humble myself in so many ways. I had to humble, and it didn't seem fair. When you're in it, it does not seem right. It doesn't seem fair. But the Lord showed me that I needed to deal with my own self first. And so if you aren't married and you wanting to be married, that's something you can get out of the way. It'd be so much easier to get that part out of the way before you get married, because many marriages don't survive that part. Many women never learn how to get themselves out of the way, how to humble themselves. We react to our feelings. We react to what the situation feels like, to how fair it is, how unfair it is, how wrong it is, how ununderstanding he is, how he's not meeting my needs, how he's not doing what he's supposed to do. I wish I had gotten it out, that part of me worked with, before I got married. But it took a while. It took me crying. It took me being hurt. It took me humbling myself. It took me having to ask him to forgive me many times before I finally learned I'm not asking him that anymore. I'm going to get it right this time. It took me having to allow God to show me that I got to get it right. And if you work on yourself now, God, help me to humble myself before you. Give me the wisdom that I need to have. Make me the name of this wife ready. I was not wife ready when I got married, and I had to learn that, and it's much more difficult. And that's one of the reasons. What I'm talking about right now is one of the reasons many marriages don't survive, because we are not willing to allow ourselves to be wife ready, even when we are wives. So go to his boss And you can start on his boss right now. Believe it. God will start work on me and then start working on him, Lord, before I meet him. You'd be amazed. When you come together, you got other little things to have to work on, but you won't have that one.
Awesome. Awesome.